Pamela, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dom. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Both you and I are always so crazy busy. I'm surprised we're both sitting.
Amen to that. I know, running around on sites like a mad woman and
Yeah.
madman, sure.
Yeah, you're like the Energizer Bunny. And I could feel the energy coming through the phone every time we talk.
I try. Gotta stay motivated. Gotta keep grinding, you know?
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, I know who you are, which is why we tracked you down and asked you to be on the show. But people listening might not know who Pamela is. So can you tell us who you are and how you come to be speaking to this worldwide group of forward-facing construction business people?
Absolutely, John. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me here today. You're absolutely fantastic. And I love the work that you do. And shout out to everybody who's listening and bettering themselves by listening in. So thank you so much. So my name is Pamela Bardhi. I'm a real estate entrepreneur. I say that because what I do is very vast. So I'm a real estate developer by trade. I'm a licensed general contractor. So basically I have the development company, construction company, as well as the brokerage company. So I have the trifecta of real estate. So that is why I call myself a real estate entrepreneur, because there's no one box you can put me in. You could try, but it's such
Yeah,
it's too
I could imagine that box needs some pretty, you would break the walls.
Yep, exactly. So that's currently what I do now. But to give you a bit of context as to how I really got there. So
Mm.
I was actually born in Tirana, Albania. So I moved from there when I was 6 months old to Rome, Italy. And
Nice.
then when I was about 5 years old, I moved to the United States. So it was funny the way that my parents actually got here. So my grandmother put their names in the visa lottery
Yeah.
without telling them. And the day my little brother was born in Rome, my grandmother goes into the hospital and she's like, "Hey, by the way,
Guess
your
what?
name got chosen to go to the United States of America." And my mom was like, "Oh, no way."
Yeah. I can
She's
imagine what she said in her Italian dialect
yeah,
because, yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. She was like, "Are you kidding me?" She's like, "We don't know the language. We
Yeah.
don't have any jobs there. None of our family is there. We have nothing and we haven't saved up money to go there." And my little brother was a newborn. I was
Yeah.
5 years old. But my dad pushed her and he said, "No, we're going because we're going to provide a better life for our kids. We need to go there. We have to we're going to find a way." And my mom just told me, she's freaking out, but they still made the move. We stayed with some family friends here till for about like 3 months until they found an apartment and all that stuff. And my dad was working really weird jobs, manual labor, because couldn't speak English.
Yeah.
And my mom had to stay home with us. And so my dad started working in the restaurant world. Eventually, he met the owner. The owner became his mentor. As
Yeah.
his mentor, he told them the way that you build wealth in America is one of two ways: owning your own business and owning real
Real
estate.
estate. Yeah. Was his
And
mentor another Italian guy?
no, he was actually a Russian guy. And so
Oh.
so he told my dad, and he's like, "I'm going to give you a down payment, go out and buy a business." And so my dad did. And he went out and
Wow.
bought a restaurant. Yeah. And he went out and bought a restaurant. I started working there when I was 10. By the time I was 18, I was running the show at my parents' shop. By the time I was 21, I had two of my own restaurants, plus doing his on the back end. And then I don't know, I was sitting at my restaurants one day and I was like, geez, I'm
Were you
working like
tired at all?
I was
Like, this
dead
is a lot of
tired.
energy. One, restaurant's hard. Three, and you're an immigrant yourself, right? You don't have the American experience, like you do because you grew up there, but you dropped in at 10.
Yep. Started right at 10. I started answering phones. I started doing, yes. So by the time I was 18, I was running the show. 21, I had two of my own restaurants plus my father's restaurant. And then I just remember one day I was sitting at my restaurants and I'm like, I'm watching all these real estate people just like cruise in their Mercedes. And they're like, "Oh, we just went to a golf course." And I'm just like,
What?
where did these people come from? What planet? Like, they make life look so easy and they make so much money. I don't get it. I'm like, everybody that I know is in real estate has done extremely well, or construction. So I was like, all right, there's something here. And this is around the time, this is 2013. I'm still in school because I went to Stonehill, Babson, then Harvard Business School.
Oh,
So
wow.
there was school happening in the background of all of this. And so I'm just remember saying to myself, I'm like, you know what? I need to diversify my revenue streams, because I kept hearing the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. So I
Yes.
was like, all right, let's do it. Great. I have 2, my restaurants. And I was like, what happens when my restaurants fail? Oh, I need another. I need
Something else. Yeah.
5 more to catch up to the average millionaire. So I was like, all right, let's pay attention to real estate. And this is when HGTV started with their whole flip or flop and all these things. And I'm like, wow, they make flipping look so easy and
Oh,
construction.
yeah. And they do it in a weekend.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it only costs $5,000 to rent to basically renovate an entire kitchen. Yeah. All of that. And
Yeah.
so I'm watching all this and I'm like, you know what? And then I see my uncle doing it North Shore a little bit, like North Shore of Boston. And then my dad invested in a project with him. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I think I can do this, but I can do it better. And I just wanted to be a different
Okay.
revenue stream for myself.
Right.
And so I was like, Dad, I want to do this. And he's like, all right, well, you need training because he's like, you have no idea what you're doing. You're brand new to construction. You're brand new to real estate. All you know is restaurants. And that's what you've known since you were 10. He's like, what are you going to do? I was like, I'm going to hire a coach.
Oh, good. And did you hire him or the Russian guy?
I hired a real estate development coach. Like that's all he did was flip and all of that. And so I dove right into it.
So your first property was a flip then?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that was the first time you were introduced to sub-trades.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first impression of sub-trades? And you're not speaking to anyone individually here, but the reason I asked that is I want the sub-trades to hear from you how they could do a better job of finding people like you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what were your frustrations and what were you really happy with in dealing with subs? Can you go through that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember the first time, because I had my coach walking through with me on my first flip, because obviously I didn't know what I was doing. It was all new. Sure. Construction was all new to me and all that stuff. And what I really came across was this, I had to hire a GC for my projects because I wasn't a licensed general contractor.
Okay. You hired a GC for it, even though you did a
first,
flip.
because I knew nothing. In the beginning, I knew nothing about construction. I knew nothing about this. So I wanted a general contractor that knew what he was doing. So I kind of wrote on those coattails, used a lot of Google to learn everything. And my coach to be like, okay, well, what do we need to do here? And all that kind of stuff. So he gave me the blueprint of what I needed to learn in construction. And then I learned on the job as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But
how was that first GT experience?
It was actually pretty good. It was pretty good. But then as we started doing more volume, it kind of subsided. But then by that point, I actually became a licensed general contractor. And then I took on my own jobs and my own sites. And then I had to create my own crews and my own subs and all that stuff, which is still what I do now. But real estate was really intended for me as a different stream of revenue. Right. And then I just ended up falling in love with it because I love the idea of creating a physical legacy on this earth. I was like, this is the coolest thing to buy a project and be like, I did that, that was big.
Yeah. Do you put your name on buildings? Like, are you doing single family, multifamily, commercial, institutional? Yeah.
So myself, primarily, I do 1 to 4 units, but I've also on the brokerage end brokered anything up to 100 million, like massive buildings and all of that. So I've seen sort of the construction of all of those, but myself personally, I work on the 1 to 4 units in Boston because that's my sweet spot. I've tried to go outside of that, and any GC who's listening right now, or anybody in the construction world, the riches are in the niches. Stick to what you do best, to do it really well and replicate it. That's the best advice I can give you. Anytime I went out of my zone, if you will, always screwed up. Always regretted it. Always screwed up. If I stepped outside of a location that I was super familiar with, wasn't as successful. It's the weirdest thing ever, but
it does make sense though. Like there comes a time to focus and there comes a time to expand, and both of them have to be done with measured thought. People think entrepreneurs take risks. Do you take risks, Pamela, or do you take measure? No, like you're not. People who are listening to the podcast can't see the video, and those who are watching the video on YouTube say, I asked, do you take risks? And you're like, nope. But when you ask people, what's it like to be an entrepreneur or a business person? Don't you take a lot of risks? You and I would laugh. We're like, I don't take any risks. I measure everything. I go as slow as I can. And then when I know where I'm going, get out of my way. This is going to happen. And actually, I hear that in your voice. Get out of my way. This is going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you want to take calculated risk. You don't want to take like dumb risk, right? So that's the reason why when I even stepped foot into real estate development, I hired a coach. I was like, I'm not even going to remotely try to figure this out on myself and spend thousands of dollars and time and risk myself. So it was sort of a form of risk mitigation when I hired that coach. And I still do that to this day.
Was a coach worth it for you? Like, was there a financial return or a mental return, like a psychological? What was the return on the coach?
All of it. Oh. Imagine you're hiring somebody who's going to save you the time, save you the money, and give you the systems to how to get it done. Right. This person's already been through it, already made the mistakes, already paid the price of those mistakes too. And it's like that type of stuff is so invaluable. And to have somebody to talk to make referrals, make a connection, make network, it's just invaluable when you're first starting. I mean,
I
why do
know.
people invest in franchises, right?
Yeah,
Is there
it's legalized cheating. Right. It's somebody who's saying, "Here's the mistakes. Don't do that. That's a mistake." Or they'll say one thing in a contract or an agreement, and they'll go, "No way. Go renegotiate that or go take that out because that's a trap, or it's
Yeah,
going to turn into a trap, or this little act of God clause doesn't include this thing, and because of where this property sits underneath a flowing river or with an abutment, you better have it." And you're like, "Oh my God, I never thought of that."
right,
Yeah.
right.
Interesting. So you went from you did your first flip and it was a single family. Now you do 4-unit flips. You want to
Yeah.
leave a legacy in this world. So how else are you leaving a legacy? What are you doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, in my world, so real estate's a big one. Now I do the 1 to 4 units, but what I really want to get into is creating communities, massive communities, that are meaningful, right? Like I have this vision of creating massive scale, working on the modular front, doing stuff all across the US, and then also creating things like spiritual centers, just like really creative types of things. Like I want to be a
Yeah.
master developer. That's what I want
Okay.
to do. I want to be able to look at a site and be like, all right, here's what I think we could do here,
Yeah.
and get super creative. I love what I do now, and I think I'll always do it. I'll always do it because I love Boston. I love renovations. I do have new constructions coming up, stuff like that. So I'll always play in
Brand
this.
new, like you're redeveloping.
Oh yeah, ground up.
Nice. I
Yeah,
have a
getting.
suggestion for you.
Yeah.
Another guest, actually, you and I both know because you're an EO member as well, right?
No, I'm not, but I know a lot of people in EO. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I thought you were sorry. I thought you were an EO member like me.
That's
So
okay.
I had a guest on. His episode might go live before yours. His name's Casey Roloff,
Oh
and
wow.
he builds communities. He actually builds seaside, kind of like holiday style, Leave It to Beaver type communities. So make
Ooh,
sure you go back and listen to that episode. And if you want, I'll make an intro to you with you guys.
yeah.
Anyways, that community building thing is so cool because then you really leave, like, that's a footprint legacy you're leaving where you don't even have to have your name attached to it. But one day in the future, somebody says, "You know who built this?
Yeah.
Ground up. You know who changed this community?" Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cool.
Yeah, that retreat centers. I want to create spaces for like entrepreneurs, like where they can all like co-live together. Imagine the synergies, right? Like if it's entrepreneurs just living in one place, or places for young families, places for 55 plus, like all these different things where community can be built. That's
Mhm.
what I'd love to do in the future. Creating retreat centers for spiritual retreats, transformational things like that, so that coaches can go and do their thing with their clients and just breakthroughs and just empowerment, all that kind of stuff. So it's almost like now I'm trying to tie in real estate with empowerment. And it's like, okay, how can I do that? Okay, well, communities would be super cool. Centers would be super cool. So that's kind of where I'm heading. But still, of course, doing what I do, which is awesome and so much fun with
So
renovations and buildings. Yeah.
this is my business coach observation of our discussion is that your vision is so far beyond being a GC or a broker that it seems like it's pulling everything else in your companies forward
Yeah.
instead of the what I would call normal problems of a GC or a contractor, which is dealing with subs, getting this lined up, lines of credit, making sure people show up. Those things are important, but I would like you've got such a bigger vision that all those things are just need to be dealt with so you can get to this community building thing. Does that make sense? So you've changed I see you changing your perspective, which changes everything else behind you, just becomes irrelevant or just a thing to be dealt with so you can get to your final goal.
For sure. But you know what it is that what I've done now and my development experience now, this framework still applies on the higher level. So I would not have those visions if I didn't sort of master where I'm at now. And I mean, for the GCs listening and stuff, is people always wonder, like, how on earth? Like I have 8 different sites going on right now, eight of them. And people are like, how do you manage these men as a young woman? And I said, listen, it's just about love and respect. If you treat them like family and you give them the dignity and respect, they will do the same thing back to you.
Right.
However, you nitpick, it's like, why didn't you do this? You know what I mean? It's you got to have that positive energy with them, and you have to make them feel like they're a part of your family. And if you make them feel that way, they will never not be loyal to you on a job. Like they'll get stuff done for you. They'll go above and beyond. They'll get stuff done on time and all of that. Because imagine if you feel valued, you're going to work hard.
But what if you have to drop the hammer? What if you have to drop the hammer? Like when I mean drop the hammer, like the plumber let you down.
Right.
messed up the install, or they laid some equipment on top of some cabinetry and scratched it. They just, something happened, right? And it's not the plumber, it's probably one of their guys. How do you deal with that?
Bring it up. Be like, hey man, I love you. However, your guys really screwed this one up. Is there anything you can do? Boom. They're like, yeah, you know what, Pam? No worries. We'll buy you a new one, or we'll fix it, or whatever. Or my carpenters are like, yeah, that's okay. We saw that happen. These guys are probably just moving quickly. We'll take care of it, kind of thing.
Nice. Okay.
Like there's always, but if you build that relationship where you're a constant giver, like for example, on when I see my guys on site, it's a wicked hot day, right? I'm like, guys, I bring like ice cold water to them, or, I'll bring them lunches and they won't even expect it. Like things like that. They're very minor things,
Yeah.
but they make such a difference and people feel appreciated. And it's unbelievable how much love they'll give back. Like my guys are out there right now. It's 98 degrees outside and my guys are out there hustling. Nobody's leaving early. They leave at 5:00. They show up at 8, they leave at 5, and they don't even take a single break except for lunch. And that's that.
Wow.
That's because they respect you. And, I hear a lot of nightmare stories and it's like, well, if you just respect them, just do the little things, they'll appreciate you. They won't play games with you or any of that. Just be straight with them and they'll be straight with you. And just a little act of kindness goes a long way.
I wonder how much you learned of that from your restaurant background, because in the restaurants, you're going at 100 miles an hour. You're cutting shifts. You're asking people to bust food. It's 1,000 degrees. And you want everybody to smile and make it a great customer experience in the restaurant, right?
Yep.
But it's just a huge cauldron of heat and stress. But you have to smile. You have to smile.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing, it's really interesting. My life trajectory. Everyone's like, wow, Pam, that sounds so different. Going from restaurants to real estate. I was like, honestly, that restaurant experience has like propelled me forward and prepared me so much for the construction world, because it's the same environment. A million things you got to juggle all at once. You got to think on your feet. You're dealing with people, you're managing people and customer service, all these different things. The restaurants are the best prerequisite for construction. I will say that hands down.
Yeah, just because everything happens so fast and the turns are so quick. Let's imagine you're talking to a business owner right now who's in one of the trades, and they are measuring themselves by revenue, but really they have a time and balance problem, a family life balance problem. They're working insanely hard, literally putting their life and soul into this, but at the risk of they're not seeing their kids' games, they're not watching their daughter's dance recital, they're not seeing their other kids' music. Life can start to look pretty gray and dark. Can you give us some perspective? Like what are some steps that person can take to get their business to where they're back in control of their life?
Absolutely. Time management is absolutely everything. And people wonder, like, Pam, how the hell do you do what you do? I'll tell you, it's time blocking. It's time blocking and prioritizing things. You have to have like non-negotiable time throughout your day. Like I take a literal calendar. I still write it out.
Yeah.
I'm not talking digital. I'm talking write it down. You're looking at, okay, what's my Wednesday look like? All right. What are the immediate to-dos? So say you're going to be on sites, say from 8 to 4.
Yeah.
8 to 4. After 4 p.m., you don't take on any more clients. You don't take on anything. You literally time block it out. From 4 to the rest of the night, it's family time. When you write it down, you can control your time so much better, because you're like, 4 o'clock, I got to go home.
Yeah.
Right. If you have it written down, you're like, it's right here. This is what I got to get done. Boom.
Can I do this?
Yeah.
Can I do this? I'm going to play a game with you.
Yeah.
This is what people listening are doing this. Pam, you don't understand. It's easy for you. You don't know what it's like to be a glazier, a roofer, a painter, a cabinet maker. That's not how life works. Stuff comes up all the time. I can't control my time.
You can.
Keep going. I know you can. Yeah. So that's why I'm feeding you that, because we hear that all the time, don't we? I can't.
Right. And that word right there is what makes it happen. You can't. You are not setting that boundary, right? You have to set your boundaries. You have to learn to say no. If a client's like, oh, I need this done, it's like, I'm so sorry, I can only get this done, on this day. We don't have staff available after X time. You literally have to create that boundary so people don't step over it. Obviously, if you don't enforce it, you're not going to. You can sit there and work 16 hours, just like I did. I never set boundaries when I was in the restaurant space. I just let time go on and on and on. And I wasn't thinking about what I was doing. And it's like, you got to be intentional with your time.
Oh my God, you should be hosting my show. You just said the same things I say.
Be intentional with your time, truly, and write it down, time block it. And that's it. And also, if you really want to dig deeper as a business owner, figure out what your time is worth per hour.
Oh,
figure out what your time is worth per hour.
Yes, and Pamela, I love that. We talk about it on this show as your revenue responsibility per hour.
Yep.
And I hope people are getting that message. And what you're talking about here is absolute gold. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Mostly because you're agreeing with me and it doesn't sound like it's just me saying it all the time. But I mean, professionally, the revenue responsibility per hour. Yeah. If you run $1 million business, just to make the math simple, and you work 2,000 hours a year, which I know is kind of a joke, but if you work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, that's 2,000 hours. Right. That means your revenue responsibility is $500 an hour. Now, you change any of those numbers as you need to. I'm not going to say that it's always 500, but people quite often go, well, Dom, I can't bill myself at $500 an hour. No, that's not the point. You're responsible for $500 an hour of production out of this company. How are you going to make it happen? It's changing that mindset. Like when I listen to you, your mindset is so far beyond the GC thing. You're building a bigger future. And it's changing our mindset. It really is. The biggest problem we all have is a 4-inch problem. I just took off my hat. And the 4 inches is the space between my ears.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
That's it. I have to manage my time or other people are going to manage it for me.
Right.
Which is the restaurant business, right? Or working for somebody else.
Right. Right. Exactly correct. And it's that time blocking is everything, and saying, all right, today, these are the non-negotiables. Here's what I got to get done today without a doubt. Here's something that kind of takes second priority, and you kind of write that all down. You have a kid's game, write that down.
No.
Hey guys, I got to leave early today. I got to take care of this and this. And it's honestly, once you start honoring your time, it's very strange, but you open up like this door to new energy to come in, and you become more successful. I have been far more successful when I've managed my time and actually worked less, like, and basically take like 4 vacations a year than I did when I was like 16, 18-hour hustle. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah. Weirdest thing.
Can you look back at a time that you made a change that had the biggest impact on your business?
Yeah. Setting the boundaries.
That was it.
Yeah. Setting the boundaries. It was about 3 years ago. And I was like, listen, you don't take money with you. And it was because I literally, when my grandfather was passing, I was there the whole time until he took his last breath. No, it's okay. It was in 2017 and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm watching him and he's just, everyone around him, he's not able to speak, he's not able to do anything, but his family's all around him on the hospital bed and everybody's holding on to him and nobody's talking about work. Nobody's talking about anything. Everyone's talking about the memories, the music that he loved, all these different things. And then I realized, like, right before my eyes, I'm like, wow. There's so much more to this life than just money. And all I was chasing at that time was just monetary, because I was just trying to be, I was trying to find success, and it was like hustle, all the time and all this. And it's like, I never really stopped to just enjoy things sometimes. And that's really where it hit me. And I started changing things. And I started setting time boundaries, setting time for family and the things that are important, because guess what? If you don't get that time back. And one day you're going to look back and be like, darn it, I wish I didn't work so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kids are, it's such a personal situation. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. But your kids don't care how much money you make. They just care whether you saw them catch that baseball or throw the football or land that jump and dance or whatever it is. That's all kids care about. I actually have a joke, because I like to make jokes. I take my son fishing and I take my daughter to do art, so that they don't push me down the stairs in the hospital. Right? Awesome. Because they're my kids and my wife. And the time that's important, we don't actually have to spend a lot of money to have time together. Going for a walk with the phone not ringing.
Right.
That's actually what we're here for.
Right.
Zeros in the bank is nice. It allows you to walk on the beach in Portugal versus around your town square, or go for an ice cream with your family. But actually your family doesn't care whether they're on the beach in Portugal or getting a Dairy Queen ice cream. They just want to go hang out.
For sure. And I know people who have so much money and they're so miserable. And it's like, that's not the answer. It's, true wealth is determined by how much time you have, what you can do with your time. If you can take a day off and you don't have to report to anybody, that's pretty awesome that you have that type of flexibility, right? Or you can defer it to your team or whatever, and then be able to enjoy the day or take vacations when you want. That's true wealth, and not have to worry. That's true wealth. Truly is.
So I sold a business. One of the first businesses I sold, I did pretty well on it, like really well. And it so happened that my wife and I flew to Rome for vacation because the deal was coming to an end anyways. And as we got to the hotel, they said, "Hey, Mr. Rubino, a fax has arrived." So now you know how old this story is. You need to sign it. And it was the final piece of paper to sign it to get the big check for selling the company. And so that night I said to my wife, "Honey, we're in Rome. We just sold the company. Let's go for a nice dinner." So dinner came, and Pamela, I remember taking the first bite, and would you believe the first thing that came to my mind? Doesn't taste any different.
Right.
Nothing. Like it was still food. I mean, it was Italian food. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome. But it didn't taste different. The food wasn't different. I sold the company, that's great. But to your point, it's not really what's most important. So all of the stuff that we work on here is to make the systems work better, so our crew can work safer, more effectively, and so we can have a good life.
Right.
All right. So speaking of good life, because I'm going to start to take us towards the end here. If you were 80 years old, which you're not, you might be half of that, you might be a quarter of that, but in the future, you're going to be 80 years old and you're going to look back on everything you've accomplished. What do you think the biggest lesson is that you could pass on to one of your grandchildren at that point in time? When you're 80, one of your grandkids says, "Nonna Pamela, tell me," is that Albanian? How do you say grandma in Albanian?
Nonna. So it's very similar to Albanian.
Close to Italian? Yeah.
Italian, okay. Yeah. No, nonna for Italian, nonna for, so just the E versus the O.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm 29 now, so still super young. So fast forward 50 years, what I would say is just stop caring what people think. Stop. Just that alone stops so many people from doing anything in this life, because you're so concerned about what everyone else has to say. Do it for you. Do it for your family. Stop thinking about what other people say. And second, just do it. I'm not trying to plug in Nike here, but it's such a great statement. It really, really is, because it's like, if I just imagine myself, if I didn't pull the trigger to try something different in real estate, I would have never done it. And I would never be here talking to you. Yeah. Right. That one decision of just saying, "Hey, let me see how it goes with this coach, and let me try, let me just see where it goes. And you know what, if it doesn't work out, whatever, it is what it is. At least I can look back on the end of the day and just know that I tried and not live in regret." Right. Because that's my biggest fear in this life, is regrets. Right. I think that's the most terrifying thing you could ever have in your existence, because then you'll never know what the outcome could have been. Right. And that what if terrifies me. So I always say, like, it just freaks me out. Regrets are far worse than fear. I say that all the time. So just go for it. What do you have to lose? Truly, what do you have to lose? If something doesn't work out, then go back to what you were doing. But then what if something turns out great? And you're like, "Oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner?" Right? There's one of two ways in which it could go, So I say that to people who are like, "Oh, Pam, I want to start a business." I'm like, "Good. If it doesn't work out, you can always backtrack and do whatever it was you were doing before. Or maybe it might lead you to something else. You don't know, but you got to try.
Try something new, educate yourself." On the subject of educating yourself, and on the subject of where this world has taken you, Pamela, you just wrote a book.
Yes.
I mean, of course you did.
So I co-authored a book with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, Tony Robbins, and Jim Britt. It's called, and then there's a few other authors as well. So I co-authored it. It's chapter 3. It's called The Underdog. It's basically my story and my lessons and how I got here. It's really incredible. I'm literally giving it away for free because I think that people really need to hear it. The secrets to success of how I got to where I got to, my story and who I am. So I would love for everyone to just grab a free copy of that. It's a free ebook. Nice. I will send you the link, and you're more than welcome to just download it, check it out, and hopefully it can help empower in any which way.
That's very pay it forward of you. Thank you. Can you say a link on the line now, or do you need it to go on the show notes?
It'll go on the show notes. Yeah, I'll send
Okay.
that link over to you for the show notes, and anyone can download it and just, spread the love. I mean, it's really what it's about, just empowering you. That's why I wrote it. I really wanted people to read it and be like, wow, if Pam can do it, I totally can too. So,
Okay, so let me do this. People listening to this show are quite often in their truck, they're driving, or they're in their office, so they may not get a chance to go to the show notes. So anybody listening, here's what I'd like you to do. You could send me a text message. I don't know, I might be making a huge mistake here, but I put my personal cell phone on the internet. Is that advised, Pamela? It's probably not right.
I think it's awesome.
This is why I keep getting IRS calls from India. But if you want Pamela's book and you don't have a chance to go to the show notes, send a text message to me. You guys know my number already, 604-837-8361, and just say Pamela's book. And then I'll know to send you the link, and I'll just text you the link from there. Because by that point, I'll have it from you, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pamela, thank you. Wow.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor.
You're a bundle of energy. I bet this could have been a 3-hour interview if we...
Yep. Exactly correct. No, thank you so much for having me. I hope something that I said today inspired or sparked something in whoever's listening. Sending love to all of you.
Awesome. Thank you, Pamela.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.